Natalie's appreciation of you being here, especially given the weather situation going on. I figured maybe there were two brave souls that would make it out tonight. So thanks for being here. We just drove kind of like wildcats from Missoula. And my name is Stony Samso. I am the executive director and co-founder of an organization called Open Air. Has anybody heard of Open Air? Yes, okay, great, fantastic. You're about to learn a little more. So this evening, I'm so excited about this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share a little bit about our work, and I'm going to talk about, in particular, I'm going to feature our work in collaboration with the Flathead Lake Biological Station, and then we're going to really, this evening is going to be enjoying the works of two artists who are connected to the biostation, and so that's the teaser for you. Let me share a little bit with you about our organization. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We are rooted in Missoula, but we work collaboratively with organizations around primarily Western Montana, but even beyond that. Our kind of core heartbeat programming is our Artist in Residence program. Who's familiar with artist residencies? Okay, good. I love the hands, and I love not seeing hands too. So residencies are essentially time and space for artists to get curious and create. And they're supported times, and it means that there's some form of studio space and a place to stay. And our program's kind of unique because I mentioned the word collaborative. We work really collaboratively with organizations to put artists in unique sites. And so oftentimes, most years we're working with anywhere from 12 to 20 partners to place artists at these sites. And I mentioned Flathead Lake Biological Station. We've been working together with them since our inception in 2019. We've hosted over 30 artists with them so far. And when I say the word artists, I mean visual artists, I mean musicians and writers and dancers and filmmakers and interdisciplinary artists, people working within and between many genres. These artists are Montana-based artists, and they're also artists that are coming from across the US and even beyond. Our residencies are 4 to 6 weeks long, typically, and they consist of artists showing up at that place and getting curious and learning about where they are, the people who are the stewards of that spot, the biostation. Who's familiar with the biostation here? Okay, a few more hands up here at the lake. For those of you who don't know, it's one of the largest freshwater research stations west of the Mississippi. It's incredible, a steward of this beautiful watershed, the Flathead Lake. They are a part of the University of Montana and have incredible research professionals and teachers that are working at their campus. It's a beautiful campus. We oftentimes are there for residencies during the summer and the fall. The fall is kind of a really great time to be up there because the campus is quietened down after the interns and all of the summer programming. And we have a 4-week session. One of our artists will be in residence there this fall. And then our other artist was there a couple of years ago now. And maybe I'll let them speak a little bit to that. But one of the things we do in collaboration with the biostation, we'll do an arts conference. So I want to invite you right now to that. It'll be October 19th, and it's a day long. And we don't always know exactly how it's going to look because it's shaped by the artists who are participating in it and the craft that they're bringing. So this fall we have a filmmaker, we have a writer, we have a instrument maker. I bet he has a better name for that. There's probably a real name for that. And a painter. And so it's a real diverse group of creatives who are going to be in residence there. I want to save space for questions throughout the evening and at the end as well. One of the things that I think I really want to emphasize for y'all is that one of the things that we really care about, a core part of our programming, what we think about, is this idea that artists are a keystone species of a healthy human ecology. It's a lot of words, but it's the idea that artists, in and of their own ways of being, of their creative potential, the way they move through the worlds, the questions they ask, their relentless curiosity, the unique solutions they come to, that fundamentally brings value to our communities. And so that's really a core value that is in our programming. And so one of the things we really care about is supporting artists not only with this time and space and professional development opportunities, but also financial resources. So all of our artists receive a stipend during their residencies, and we continue to try and find opportunities for supporting them through workshops and other kind of opportunities. The other key part is that the arts shouldn't be done in a vacuum. They should be done in our communities. They should be shared. And so we really care about offering free opportunities to our communities, and whether it's workshops, whether it's exhibitions, whether it's special programming, free and very affordable activities, donation-based activities are kind of the heartbeat of what we do as well. So there's information on that table out there. If you're kind of intrigued by this, you want to learn more and stay connected, please put your email address out there. We're not spammy about it, but we are frequent communicators too, because we have so many neat things to share, and we have the fortunate opportunity to work with so many artists each year. Speaking of art, let's get to the good stuff, right? I'm going to introduce our two, and I'm going to do a little bit of reading. I brought my glasses for me. So this evening we're gonna kind of have a respiration between music and literature. Can I say that? Did you say that? We're a little improv tonight too. So we're gonna start with Kate Mostad. Kate, when were you in residence? Was it 2022? 2022 in the fall, right?
Yep.
So Kate is a singer-songwriter from Western Montana. She's here in your community. Hopefully you know her. She lives here in Polson. Is that right? She graduated from the University of Montana with a BA in Creative Writing and Environmental Lit in 2017. Her work often reflects on the natural world, from landscapes to plants to the events and relationships that take place in their midst. She's been playing music since she was a kid, and she's just recently jumped into the world of digital recording. Her passion for nature takes her around the state, studying wildflowers and learning more about the intricacies of our ecosystem. I hope, Kate, you'll share a little bit of thoughts or reflections from your time in residence. It was a real gift to have her, and one of the things that I remember from her time was just how much she dove into her residency, and it was this really generative time of writing and thinking. And so, Kate, thanks for being here today. Can I invite you up here to play us a song? And then I'll come back up and introduce Eva. So, okay, thanks guys for being here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kate.
Hi.
Yeah, so as mentioned, I did my residency in 2022 in the fall at the bio station. And it was a really great experience. I got to meet a lot of great people, in addition to the staff and the researchers who are doing such great work out there. I made some really great friends in my artist cohorts that were a part of the residency as well. And actually one of my friends who was a cohort during the residency ended up doing the album artwork for my very first album that came out of the residency. So that was pretty cool. And I'm going to be sharing 3 songs tonight that I wrote during my residency. This first one ended up on the album, so that's pretty cool. It's called Ode to Ditchburn and Cattails.
piece, and that I feel like Kate just helped share with us, is the vulnerability of art making. It's quite the process, and one of the things that I love with the residency piece is it supports process. We tend to, oftentimes when we come into contact with works of art, it's the end. It's somebody's figured out all the kinks and the tricks, and they've buttoned all the pieces up, and you don't always see the kind of the striked out places, the rewrites, the redrafts, the painted over canvas. And I think that that's one of the things that I love about residencies, is it really fosters the act of creation. And as part of our free programming, we do an artist presentation series, so we make sure you have a chance to come and hear from the artist, and it's oftentimes during the residency itself. And so sometimes artists have a really generative process and come up with solutions really quickly, and that's what their practice looks like. And sometimes artists take a lot longer, and residency is about research and asking more questions than answering them. And I really continue to appreciate the kind of just the flexibility of our programming to accommodate that for artists. And so even though we focus on the residency piece, we really think about a long-term relationship with our artists and have a chance. We invite them all to participate in a group exhibition each year, for example, so they can present those solutions that they come up with, and you can check them out too. So I just want to share that a little bit. And so thank you, Kate, for your getting us started here and sharing your vulnerability. I want to thank our friends here at Sandpiper. It's so nice to be here. This is our first time in Polson, so thanks for having us. This is awesome. It's nice to see such a cozy, generative spot right here. So thanks for having us and collaborating with us like this. Really appreciate it. Our work is made possible by lots of people, and we have a board with all of our kind of residency site partners, as well as financial supporters. I got to give a shout out for just a couple, and we have friends who are up in Big Fork. The Laura Barrett family has been generous supporters of our work. I don't know if you know those guys, but they've been great. The Payne family and the Beck family also are just a few that I want to make special mention to and appreciate their generosity and vision in supporting this work. I think that those are the main notes I wanted to make. And so now I'd love to hand it over to Eva-Maria Maggi. Thank you. Sorry, we're coming into a relationship with each other because Eva's going to be in residence with us this fall at the Flathead Lake Biological Station. We're really excited to have her there, and along with another fantastic cohort of folks. Eva-Maria Maggi is an author, social scientist, and educator whose work spans wilderness conservation, political science, and storytelling. She's published 2 books, including Hush of the Land, co-authored with legendary wilderness guide Smoke Elser, which celebrates the spirit of Montana's Bob Marshall wilderness. With a PhD in political science and extensive experience teaching international relations and wilderness policy, Eva-Maria bridges natural and social landscapes, capturing the intersection of nature, people, and cultural change. Her writing and public talks reflect a commitment to transformative storytelling and community engagement across borders and environments. Born in Germany, she lived in Italy, Morocco, and calls Missoula, Montana home. Eva, would you join us and share some of your work with us? Thanks.
Exciting evening tonight for me. So I want to thank Open Air for giving me that opportunity to be here, but also to do this residency this fall, but also the Flathead Biological Station. It's a very special place. I will talk a little bit more in the work I'm going to read later why this is so particularly special, Flathead Lake, for my writing. And I'm really excited to be able to do this. This is special because I am really kind of coming into myself as a writer. I published Hush of the Land, which was a pretty big success. We had readings, 22 all over Montana. But of doing that, I wrote that book through the voice of another person, through Smoke Elser. And that was a fantastic opportunity. He was always with me at the stage. I could kind of hide behind him. He told the stories, and I was the sidekick with the book. And now I'm kind of starting to be myself, which is cool, but I also miss him, of course. And maybe you know that. So you do something from the heart, and you do it maybe for a while, and then at some point you just wake up and you're like realizing, oh wow, that's what's happening. And that's a little bit with me in writing. So I started out, as a university professor taking a mule packing class in Missoula, and decided, wow, those stories that outfitters are telling are amazing. So I started recording those stories, and I feel like then sometime I just woke up and I said, oh wow, I think I'm a biographer. How did that happen? And I think that's kind of where I am. And so in the last few years, I really transitioned into writing more, and I decided that I want to do this really like I jump cliffs into a river with both feet, and I'm really gonna have fun. So that's my goal for tonight. So they say all biography is autobiography, and it doesn't. We don't even know where that comes from, but I truly think that's true. Especially when now writing more and more biography, I really see myself coming in those stories. I'm drawn to them. Those stories find me, like in that barn when I was taking the mule packing class, but also a little bit the stories I'm going to tell today. They kind of found me. I wasn't looking for them. And I have this deep sense that I need to write them and they need to be preserved. And we need to talk about it. So, for example, the other day, so those inspiration come from very unexpected places. So the other day I was actually writing kind of a tricky scene in a book I'm working on right now, actually about that's set in rural southern Germany in World War I. And I wanted to show the life of children there, and especially on a farm working. And suddenly, kind of my grandmother appeared, like not like a ghost or something, like really just in my head. And the story she used to tell me about her harvesting potatoes and working on the potato field. And in a way, so my German-Polish grandmother kind of helped me understand the childhood of a forgotten German Nazi resistance fighter that I was working on at the time. So I was just like, oh wow, writing life is full of surprises. Who would have thought that? And so tonight I kind of wanted to start out with reading kind of a very personal essay that I wrote this summer, and it's called Why I Stay. And Stony mentioned I came here to the United States from Germany. It's now 15 years ago. And this summer I felt like, I kind of need to make a choice, or I kind of felt like needing to make a choice. And I kind of, and so the story, this essay I wrote is a lot about like finding home here in Montana and what that means to me. So why kind of, despite uncertainty and challenges, I'd chosen to stay, and what wilderness kind of, or wild places kind of play a role with that for me and my family. So in many ways that lays kind of the thematic groundwork, so to speak, so the autobiography about the biography I'm going to talk about tonight. Because for a few years now I've been working on a biography of the Craighead brothers, John and Frank Craighead, and a lot of people, some people know them, especially if they've been in Montana for a while, but a lot of people don't. They're two pioneering wildlife biologists. Some make the case actually they were the founders of modern wildlife biology, and they dedicated their lives to understanding and protecting wild places. Like the Bob Marshall Wilderness right here in front of us, or north of here, but they also were involved in conservation of rivers and grizzly bears. So I'm going to read a little bit tonight from their work there. So that story really deeply resonates with mine, because I think it has a lot to do with how wild places shape us and how we kind of find freedom and resistance in wilderness. And why these stories of people who defend these lands really matter to us today. So I will read this essay, and this is great that Stony mentioned it. So all of the work I'm reading tonight is a work in progress, and that's why I was a little bit like, what should I read tonight? Because I'm working on so many different things, so many different projects right now that I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to read. But so keep with me here, and we can do a question and answers at the end. Maybe you have some ideas what I could put in and what I could change. Or maybe something that resonates with you. I published a little bit of that in my newsletter last week, and I had a few people kind of already reach out and say, oh, this is so much like I feel home in Montana. So maybe that resonates with you if you're not from here. A few weeks ago, I sat beside a high mountain stream in the Bob Marshall Wilderness of Montana, carving its path to the Pacific Ocean 30 miles from the nearest road and thousands of miles from the place I once called home. The sun had melted the last of yesterday's snow, revealing a deep blue sky. The water was swift and cold, the rocks warm. My children giggled nearby. Behind the willows, the horses dozed, swishing their tails in a slow, familiar rhythm. 15 years ago, I moved to the US for love, but that day by the river, I knew I would stay. The past few months felt like a reckoning. If things worsen in the US, will you consider returning to Germany? Friends ask quietly, their voices caught between hope, dread, and envy. You have options, they say. You could leave. And they're not wrong. I studied authoritarian regimes. I'm writing a book about resistance to the Nazis. I see the differences clearly, but I also recognize the signs. How language hardens, how truth erodes, how fear becomes currency. My work is portable. My husband, a physician, could find a job abroad. The kids and I have dual citizenship. They're still young and they speak German. We wouldn't be the first to leave. I exist because my family followed a simple, proven strategy of survival, leaving before it's too late. In 1945, as the Red Army swept through eastern Germany, my grandmother hid with her children beneath the planks of a barn for weeks. Later at 50, she fled to West Germany in the early morning hours, carrying no suitcase, just my mother, so as not to raise suspicion. She built a new life. She raised me, but I don't remember her laugh. She once said that the next 40 years, those she lived in freedom were the happiest of her life, especially when she could be in the mountains. Being German comes with a sack full of responsibilities you can't leave behind. We live history, we study it, we visit concentration camps, and we say never again, and we mean it. So when I see people getting arrested, disappearing, stripped of their humanity, it's not abstract, it's memory. And yet, sitting beside that river, far from the noise and fear of the world, I reclaimed something I had almost lost. My children fished and danced, making their home, as humans have done for millennia, in the heart of 1.6 million acres of roadless land. They shared the wilderness with lynx, elk, moose, wolverine, and grizzly bear. And here, the world revealed itself, embraced us, was whole, and we belonged. That moment of clarity wasn't patriotic. It came from something older, wilder, and more profound than borders. Unlike many immigrants, I never dreamed of living in the United States. I loved Europe. I lived there, studied it, breathed it. I grew up in Germany, spent years in Italy and Morocco, and speak 4 languages. I was the first in my family to attend college. I believe in public health care and education without debt. My path was clear, a creative life, rooted in cities and forests, cultures, and family. The US felt distant and strange, a place I never wanted to return to. At 16, I spent a bleak few months as an exchange student in rural Indiana. By what logic, I'll never understand, I was placed with a polygamous Mormon family. My sister was addicted to pills and tossed fast food wrappers out the car window. I don't remember her mother or a single home-cooked meal. I joined the swim team to avoid mandatory Bible study. Non-white people were advised to leave town before dark. I wasn't sure if that warning included me. And yet, love has a way of spinning your world in unexpected ways. We met in college in Germany, and he's still handsome, adventurous, and kind. I visited him here in Montana, his home in the dead of winter. The culture still continued to baffle me. Students getting high to watch football, people leaving cars running whilst they shopped, others throwing ropes over plastic cows in the parking lot. But he showed me something else, something bigger. And we climbed mountains and skied through Yellowstone and swam in hot rivers while our hair froze in the cold. And the land took me in. And it began to heal wounds I hadn't yet named without asking for anything in return. And we moved. Italy, Seattle, Tucson, we had children. I wanted to know where I belonged. Because if I stay now, I want to stay with intention. And if my children one day ask me why I didn't leave when we still could, I want to give them an answer that holds. And the truth is, I stay because this land calls me home. I stay because of the silence in the woods and the way grizzly tracks appear overnight in the mud along the creek. The way my body knows where I am when I ride my horse across a high pass. I stay because wilderness is the opposite of tyranny. It is where control dissolves and wonder takes over. These mountains are our cathedral, the river, our hymns. That might be the only way to keep our sanity. I stay because my children are growing up with dirt under their nails, mountain air in their lungs, and the knowledge that there are places in this world too vast to be truly owned. I know resistance is most effective from the outside, but I'm here, and I believe wilderness has always been a place of resistance, against industry, against conformity, against the flattening of spirit. And in a world increasingly controlled by fear and algorithms, the wild teaches us humility. It unspools the illusion of control. I need this place, and I want my children to know it is here. This country has revealed its darkness to me, but it has also given me something long lost: space, silence, immensity. A kind of freedom that doesn't belong to any one person, but runs like a steady, healing current beneath the noise. I stay because the wild is still here, because the practice of freedom begins with what we choose to defend, and as long as the wilderness holds, so will I.
So this song is called Swallowtail.
usually I always do readings about other people. I like to look at other people's life, but again, I think that also teaches me something about myself. So Sonia's talked a little bit about process. So I want to tell you a little bit how I got actually to the Crackhead Brothers, and even my Nazi resistance fighter book, which doesn't really make any sense. Like if you see those two projects, like what did she do? And I don't really know. Those stories found me, but they both actually found me through that Hush of the Land book I did with Smoke Elster. So Smoke told me, and he lived in the Bob Marshall practically as an outfitter for 60 years, and he told me over 800 hours of his stories around his fire in his barn in Missoula. And one of the stories that is also in the book is about the John Crackhead. And I had never heard of him when Smoke first told me about him, and I just thought, what a fascinating guy. And I started looking into it a little bit, and it turns out that he taught at actually he never taught a class at the University of Montana, but he was a professor at the University of Montana for 15, 20 years, and he did a lot of research up on Flathead, and I'm really curious to learn actually when I'm at the Flathead Biological Station what he actually did there. And he had a huge archive in Missoula, and his family was so generous to let me look through all their papers, and there's a lot of papers and letters written. So I've been doing that now, I think, for over 3 or 4 years. And it really turned into this amazing project. But I haven't really looked at this project in a while because this other Nazi resistance fighter came also through Smoke. He's a relative of Smoke. He told me about, I didn't know about, and he's kind of forgotten everywhere a little bit. In Germany, not so much, but here nobody knows about him. So I kind of dug him up a little bit. And so that kind of really got me going in the past year. I did a bunch of research, wrote a lot, and so I have these 2 projects now, which I think one book is plenty, but I'm really excited to go back to the Crackhead book. So that's what I did when I got invited to do this reading. I was like, well, I need to read about the Crackheads because that's what the residency is for, and that's the project I was working on at the time. And so I was so excited to go back. And then I read what I wrote, and I had a few chapters done already, and I was like, oh my God, I would do this completely different now. And so what I'm going to read today is a prologue that I basically rewrote in the last week with a lot of the information that I already had in the first draft. This is probably the 3rd or 4th draft now. And yeah, we'll see what you think. The idea of a prologue is always to kind of introduce the person, especially in biography. You want to make sure people kind of understand where these people come from, especially if they're not like, you know, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs that everybody knows. And so hopefully the prologue does that. But I think I can still do a whole lot better. Before I get started though, I brought this and you should maybe look at it, please do. This is a print of a grizzly bear paw, obviously, and it's actually a print of the paw of the bear I'm going to read about in a little bit. The bear did not die in the process, but the Crackhead brothers, twin brothers, they really, they made these prints of their tranquilized bears that they're tranquilized in Yellowstone, and then I gave this print as a book stand, right, so to their donors and friends. So that was a kind of a neat little gift they gave out, and you can see in the back it says kind of John and Frank Crackhead, so I invite you to look at it later. And that's Marion's print. And Marion is a bear that fascinated me very much from the beginning because it also fascinated the Crackhead brothers. She is a very special bear, and in their 15 years of studying grizzly bears in Yellowstone, they followed her life pretty much from the beginning almost to the end. And that's why I decided to open the book with her. How the Crackhead brothers kind of are tracking her. It's a fairly short read, so I hope we're good in time. Are we still good in time? We're good? Okay. The beginning is a little strange. I don't really know. It's like better when you read it than when you write it when you read it. But so it's beep, beep, beep. Finally, a steady mechanical heartbeat. 74 beats per minute. Intermittent, faint, but unmistakably Marion's radio signal. The 7-year-old grizzly sow, fierce, disciplined, unafraid to defend her 3 cubs from aggressive males, was preparing to vanish into a winter den. On a high, snow-dusted ridge near Mount Washburn in fall of 1968, wildlife biologist John Craighead and his twin brother Frank stood still, listening. Behind them stretched Hayden Valley, vast and wide, under a freshly cleared sky. This was the heart of Yellowstone National Park and the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, 2.2 million acres of wild country, home to elk, bison, lynx, wolverines, and one of the last remaining grizzly bear populations in the lower 48 states. Over the past decade, the Craighead brothers had returned to this ridge many times. They knew every drainage, trail, rise that might conceal a bear. They came looking for tracks, signs, and the soft pulse of the radio signal they had pioneered. But today, they were chasing something else, a last chance. For reasons beyond their control, this might be their final day tracking a grizzly in Yellowstone, maybe the last time seeing Marion alive. As boys, they were inseparable. 2 weary twin sons of a botanist bound by restless curiosity. They roamed woods and rivers near Washington, D.C., fishing, trapping, sketching, raising owls and hawks. Back then, it was easy to mistake one for the other. Sometimes they swapped places, one attending class, the other attending birds, unnoticed. Now in their 50s, they still shared the athletic build, tidy hair, and their father's rigid forehead and green eyes. Both radiated confidence in the field. But their differences had grown. Frank, quieter, long-faced, carried himself with a subtle swagger. He worked with engineers to design Marion's transmitter. John, more compact, led the study with a calm, unquestionable authority. They had spent decades side by side, but this moment felt fragile. John raised his binoculars, scanning the trees for Marion's bright radio collar, the rolling sway of her shoulders, the long guard hairs tipped with silver. A late fall storm had blanketed meadows and trails with fresh snow, softening edges and soon obscuring every print. The sun dipped behind clouds and a cold southwest wind picked up. Winter was settling in the high country. They dropped off the ridge and walked towards the woods. Frank held a transceiver, a bulky 2.5-pound device the size of a cereal box, its oval antenna angled like a listening ear. John kept his eyes on the ground and trees, watching for a sign. Grizzlies often dug dens beneath roots or stumps on north-facing slopes, far from people, but sometimes near other bears. Marion's signal was weak, growing fainter. Soon, snow would bury the den's entrance and silence the radio pulse entirely. It had happened before. Each year, Marion dug a new den within a mile or so of the last. Each year, the team came close, sometimes just hours or days too late. They knew they were near. No bear shaped their study more than Marion. They had watched her grow from a 175-pound, low-ranking 2-year-old into a confident 350-pound mother heading into hibernation with her 3rd litter. She was the first grizzly and the first large mammal anywhere to wear a radio collar, a distinction she never knew. But for the Craigheads, she was both subject and symbol, the ideal study bear and a wild creature who had taught them more than anyone. Unlike many grizzlies, Marion was a homebody, rarely staying beyond the 20 square mile radius around Mount Washburn. Her movements followed a seasonal rhythm, roots, sedges, and carrion in early spring, teaching her cubs to dig for field mice and gophers as snow melted, berries in summer, and once tourists arrived, garbage at the Trout Creek dump. She showed them that grizzly mothers could form bonds, even temporary communities with other sows. Once she adopted an orphan cub. After a male mauled one of her own, she grew more protective, but never once, not even when they nearly stepped on her napping in a shallow furrow, did she show aggression towards humans. Startled, she leapt up, glanced back once, then vanished. Any other bear might have charged. They respected her restraint. They admired her intelligence. Everyone on their team carried a gun. They never once had to use one. When John began the Yellowstone grizzly study in 1959, and Frank joined soon after, they were already pioneering field biologists. But science alone wasn't enough. From the start, their work was driven by conservation. What good was knowledge if it didn't protect what they studied? They developed the concept of wildlife corridors, supported the Wilderness Act, and wrote the Wild and Scenic River Act to protect the rivers that shaped their lives since childhood. Above all, they made sure people saw what they saw. At 16, they published the first of over a dozen articles in the National Geographic magazine, launching a career that brought science to the broader public. They photographed falcons, owls, and eagles in nests, developing techniques to capture what had never been seen before. They filmed. They told stories of their adventures, hawking with an Indian prince, developing survival training for Navy pilots shot down over the Pacific in World War II, tracking bears and mapping their habitat by satellite. Their stories changed how people saw wild animals, rivers, and the land. The 12-year study of the Yellowstone grizzly bear is still the longest running study of a single population of grizzly bears. It was funded by the National Geographic Society, National Science Foundation, Atomic Energy Commission, and later NASA, and private donors. When Grizzly, National Geographic first TV special, aired in 1967, 20 million people tuned in. It was the most watched show that evening in the United States. That same year, they helped push the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act towards passage, rafting the Salmon River for footage for another documentary. In the fall, they were invited to the White House to watch President Lyndon B. Johnson sign the act. They didn't go. They were too tired. Their work shaped a generation of wildlife biologists, shifted attitudes about predators, and helped lay the groundwork for modern conservation policy, and yet it is almost forgotten today. Almost inevitably, they stirred up conflict. Their methods, independence, and visibility clashed with the National Park Service growing bureaucracy. In 1968, their permits were revoked, and by 1971, their study ended. So they returned to this ridge one last time in pursuit of Marion. The signal was faint now. They followed it through the trees, uphill, downhill, boots sinking into the fresh snow. The slope narrowed, pines thickened, then silence. John stopped. Frank adjusted the antenna. Nothing. They looked at each other. Their eyes said more than words. She had gone under. Somewhere just beyond, beneath snow and roots, Marion curled tightly with her cubs, sealed into a hidden den, soon buried under drifts. They stood quietly. The wind sifted through the trees, tracks faded behind them. No flashbulbs, no fanfare, just a lost signal in the hush of winter. They turned backs down the slope, the antenna dangling silently at Frank's side. This was the last time the Craighead brothers would track a grizzly bear together. Thank you.
I think he's the director of FLBS. He took us all out to the North Fork of the Flathead and had us just described how rivers work. I didn't ever know how rivers worked. They're just such organic living things that move and breathe and change form. So it just inspired me to write this song.
Thank you both. That was wonderful.